going to start the bones and joints of thorax. So today we are going to mainly discuss about the typical ribs. So first we'll start with introduction. So thorax is actually osteocartilaginous cavity. Why it is called osteocartilaginous? Because it has some bones, right? The ribs, and in front have sternum and back they have vertebral column, especially thorax vertebra, and it is mainly attached by means of a cartilage. So hence it is called osteocartilaginous cavity, and it's dynamic. It's not static. Why it's dynamic? Because the whole thorax need to move according to the respiration movements. And it's coming to the bones. So bones of the thorax mainly they have gaps in between the ribs. So the bones are 12 ribs on both sides, and the space in between the two ribs is called as intercostal spaces, and the ribs are placed obliquely. Obliquely means like, for example, I'll show you a diagram there. So you can check, this is the oblique nature of arrangement of ribs. Like you can see the posterior side is actually, for example, this is a rib. The posterior side should be somewhat slightly upper when compared with the anterior side. So because of this is called oblique nature, like this. So the ribs are attached in a oblique manner, and maximum and this obliquity is maximum at the ninth rib. This is important. So ribs are arranged in oblique manner, and that obliquity is especially highest maximum in the ninth rib, and upper 10 ribs at their anterior ends broader than the posterior ends. So actually, for example, this is a rib. So this is the anterior end and this is the posterior end. The anterior end mainly articulates with sternum, and the posterior end it articulates with the vertebral column, especially our thoracic vertebra. So what they are saying is the anterior ends of especially the upper 10 ribs. So till the 10 ribs, this anterior end is mainly more broader. It's more broader to attach with the sternum when compared with this posterior end. And you can see the 3 to 9 ribs, that is the ribs which are 3 and from 3 up to 9, these are all typical ribs, like common ribs. But there are some atypical ribs which are having some other special features when compared with these typical ribs. Those are rib number 1, 2, 10, 11, 12. So these are the atypical ribs. We will also see them, but now in this video today we are mainly seeing about typical rib. So this is how a typical rib looks. So a typical rib, anteriorly it has a concave depression. So actually first we need to find out what is the anterior and posterior end of a rib. So how to find out that? Always remember, at the anterior end you will have no other features, only you have the pit for costal cartilage, whereas in the posterior head end you will always see some head, neck, tubercle, like some other body parts of this rib are present. So that is the posterior end, whereas the anterior end has pits, depressed pits inside. So the anterior end are mainly depressed pits which are mainly articulating with the costal cartilage, whereas the posterior end have the head. You can see this is the head and it has a neck. So this is the crest of the neck, and also it has a tubercle. So this is a tubercle. So these are some parts of the posterior part of the rib. And next the rib of course will have the shaft. So this is called as shaft, and the shaft has especially in the shaft the lower part. So this is the shaft. Now we are seeing, for example, so this is a rib. So this is outer surface and this is the inner surface, and in the inner surface, especially at the lower part, inner surface lower part, we can see a costal groove. So this is the inner part, lower surface, you have a costal groove, and this costal groove is very thin, and whereas if you see the upper border, it's rounded. So actually I will show this rib here from the Grayson Netter anatomy, so that you can understand very easily. So this is an anterior end, it is somewhat depressed, it has pits. This is a posterior end, it has a head which is mainly articulating with the vertebral column, right? That is especially it attaches to our transverse process of vertebra. Not transverse process, it attaches to this side process, and this transverse process will attach with the tubercle. So now I am showing you the parts. So head, neck, tubercle. This is the angle of our rib, and you can see this is the outer surface and this is the inner surface. As it is a curved structure, you can understand this is the outer surface. This is all outer surface is backward, all outer surface, but this is the inner surface. So in the inner surface also you have again the upper border and lower border. So but in this side, if you see, this is the upper border and this will be the lower border. So this lower border, you can see in the lower border you will have the costal groove. This coastal groove is very thin, and it's but you can see its upper border is somewhat rounded. So that is what is here. And we also have different features, like, now let us see the features of a rib. So here only you can understand now. So different features of the rib. The main one is the posterior end has head, and its head has mainly two facets. So you can see this is the upper facet, lower facet, and these facets are separated in between by a crest. So this is a crest, this is the upper facet, and this is the lower facet. And the lower facet is bigger when compared with the upper facet. So this is a bigger lower facet, this is a smaller upper facet. So the bigger lower facet mainly articulates with the same that number of vertebra, whereas the smaller upper facet articulates with the next upper vertebra. So for example, if you think this lower big one attaches with the third vertebra, but whereas the upper one, the smaller one, attaches to the two, means the vertebra which is above this, it attaches to that. That is a smaller upper facet. And next, the neck in front of transverse process. Actually, in articulation, for example, this is a, here you can see. So this is a posterior end of our vertebra. So you can see it is getting articulated with a posterior end of rib, and it is getting articulated with this vertebra. And you can see this is a transverse process side. So just anterior to the transverse process only this rib gets articulated. So what they here can see that one, the neck is in front of transverse process, and the neck is divided into anterior and posterior. So this is a neck, right? The neck anterior one will be back of it. This is a posterior surface of the neck. So the other side will be the anterior surface. This is the posterior surface, and that is the anterior surface. And what here they are saying before that, the neck is in front of transverse process. And next, you can see at the junction of neck and shaft. So this is neck, this is shaft. So in between this both we have a tubercle. So tubercle is present in between the neck and the shaft. And this tubercle is it is having two parts. It is having a medial part and the lateral part. So here in this diagram you can see, so the tubercle is having a medial part and a lateral part. So this medial part is mainly articular facet for the transverse process of vertebra. So transverse process get articulated with the medial part of tubercle, whereas the lateral part is non-articular part. So that medial part which is articular with the transverse process, it forms a costo-transverse joint. By this name only you can see this is a usually the ribs are called as coastal ribs, right? Coastal ribs. So if they are getting attached with the vertebra, then it is called costovertebral. Especially it is attaching to the transverse process of the vertebra, so it is called costo-transverse joint. And next you can see, lateral to tubercle there is angle of rib. So you can see this is a tubercle, lateral to it you have an angle of rib. And the rib outer surface is having an oblique line, and the rib internal surface is smooth and it is having a ridge. So remember, outer surface of the rib is having some oblique line. You can see this is an oblique line. So outer surface has oblique line, whereas inner surface had a ridge. So this is a ridge. So this is a ridge and this is an oblique line. So on outer surface oblique line, on inner surface we have a ridge which is smooth, and the coastal groove is actually between the ridge and inferior border. So you can see this is a ridge, this is the inferior border, in between you have a coastal groove. So you can mark it as a ridge, and here you can mark it as oblique line. So we are saying about this coastal groove from so much time. So what is the main use of this? Because in this coastal groove mainly the posterior intercostal vessels and also intercostal nerve travel. So posterior intercostal vessels and also intercostal nerve. And next we'll see the upper border. So upper border have outer and inner lips. So actually you can see this is the upper border. So upper border also have this, for example this is outer lip and this is the inner lip. Actually, especially you can see them on the inner side. So for example you can see here, this is outer border, it is having an upper lip, and this is a inner lip. Upper lip, inner lip. And next let us see, now let us start with the attachments. So what are attached to what? So to this crest of head, Mainly the intra-articular ligament of costovertebral joint attaches. What is that? Intra-articular ligament. So here you can see this is actually called as triradiate ligament. This triradiate ligament is attached to the head of the posterior end of the rib. So actually it's upper triradiate, right? So it has three ligaments. The upper ligament attaches to the upper vertebra. The middle ligament is nothing but our just now said the interarticular ligament, which attaches mainly to the vertebral disc, and the lower ligament attaches to the corresponding number of numerical vertebra. So the interarticular ligament is attached to the crest of the head. And next you have at the anterior head, to the head anteriorly there is attachment. So in head this is a posterior part, and anteriorly means back of the head, back of the surface, right? So to the head anteriorly there attaches a radiate ligament. So you can see this is a radiate ligament, and which is related to the sympathetic chain and also to the costal pleura. Of course you can understand now how it is attached to the costal pleura. So in this diagram you can understand this is a head. So this is head, and this is its posterior surface, and its anterior surface is back. So to that anterior surface you can understand, if now it is attaching here to our vertebra, then it's posteriorly, of course it will be in continuation with the pleural cavity, costal pleura, right? And next you can see the neck. The neck anteriorly is also attached to the costal pleura, and inferiorly to costotransverse ligament, which is attached to the posterior surface. So we know this is the neck. So this is the posterior surface of neck. So in the anterior surface of neck mainly we have attachment of costal pleura, right? And inferiorly, so this is a superior and this is inferior. So inferiorly there is attachment of mainly our costotransverse ligament, because you can understand now. So this is a costotransverse ligament. It is attached inferiorly to these ligaments are attached, of course costotransverse means with the rib to the transverse process of the vertebra. And we already know that in the shaft we have an angle, right? So to this angle also there is attachment of thoracolumbar fascia, and also there is attachment of lateral sacrospinalis, and medial to the angle there is attachment of levator costae and also sarcospinalis. And next at anterior angle, so we have actually two types of angles. So this is an anterior, here will be somewhere anterior angle, and this is a posterior angle. So especially at the anterior angle, it separates the external oblique from serratus anterior into 5 to 8 ribs, and this anterior angle also separates the origin of external oblique from latissimus dorsi in especially from 9 to 10 ribs. And the floor of costal groove, the floor of costal groove is the floor of costal groove has having internal intercostal internal intercostal muscles arise from it, especially intercostal intimus arise from the middle to fourth of ridge above the groove, and subcostalis to the inner surface of lower ribs. So inner surface of lower lips we have subcostalis, and external intercostal is attached to outer lip of upper border. So this is upper border, so this is outer lip. Upper border is already said, upper lip and inner lip. So to the upper lip of outer border there is attachment of external intercostal, and internal intercostal muscle along with intercostal intimi are attached to the inner lip of upper border. And now let us see the ossification of typical rib. So ossifies in cartilage, mainly the typical rib ossifies in a cartilage. That is, first the cartilage is formed and next the bone is formed. So the primary center is for shaft is near the angle at third week of intrauterine life. So in the third week, especially at the angle, so this is angle, right? So at this place only first the primary center of ossification forms, and especially at third week. And next the three secondary centers form, one for the head and two for the tubercle. So three secondary centers form, one is formed at the head and three are formed at the tubercle. One for the head and two are formed at the tubercle. So it is done at 16 years, and the unite with rest of the bone at 25 years. So at 25 years it completely unites with the rest of the bone. So remember, primary ossification center is in the angle. It is at third week of intrauterine life, and mainly 3 secondary centers are formed. 2 are formed in the tubercle, 1 is formed in the head, and they are formed especially at 16 years, but later by 25 years it completely unites with all of the bone. So this is all about our typical typical rib. Next we'll see about atypical rib, especially first rib, second rib, 10th rib, 11th and 12th ribs, and like that the order goes.